So after we relocated Radha Krishna, before the days were Rukmini Dwarkadis, by palanquin from La Cienega Boulevard to Watseka. Once we got settled in Los Angeles, Prabhupada started giving classes every day. And that was very special because up until that point, we'd only seen Prabhupada, I think he spoke every Monday night only. And all of a sudden we're living with Prabhupada right above us. We'd chant japa in the alley right below his room. And sometime we'd get to walk with him. And every morning we'd get to hear him. And he introduced the chanting of Sanskrit mantras for the first time when he started to give classes on the Ishupanishad. The first mantra he taught us was Om Purnamada Purnamidang Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. You can imagine how hard it was for us to chant a mantra back then because we'd never done it. And Prabhupada would give these classes, which some of them were recorded, and I listen to them now. And one morning, after the class was over, all the devotees had offered their obeisances, and we were just rising. And suddenly, His Divine Grace took his microphone, and out of nowhere, he said, "Either you love Krishna, or you love the vagina." And if you ever want to feel the air go out of a balloon, you should have been in that room at that moment, because you could have heard a needle drop from the middle of outer space, because everyone was breathless. I couldn't even breathe. It was like, it was so shocking. And I'm sure everyone took it the same way I did. I knew that he was talking right to my heart. He was telling us the naked truth about why we're here, about the material world, and that was the reality. So we're thinking we're devotees and we love Krishna, but actually we love something else. It was a hard truth to swallow. And I'll never, ever, ever forget that moment. I probably remember it for the next 1,000 lifetimes.
These are a few New York/New Jersey pastimes. That is, the temple was in New York, the first temple, 26 Second Avenue, and Prabhupada was performing the pastime of recuperating from a heart attack. So he was staying in New Jersey by the beach. And 2 of us a day would get to visit him. So the day that I was there, I told him that one of the brahmacharis criticized me for wearing shorts one day. I said, "Is it okay to wear shorts?" Because I listened to him, but I wasn't satisfied. So Prabhupada said, "The attraction is already there, don't aggravate it." Then he said, in Vedic culture, a woman would be so covered that even the sun, S-U-N, could not see her, and who can hide themselves from the sun? Then he pointed out about the Muslim religion, how, the women only have their eyes showing. And then there just so happened to have been a picture of Draupadi, like that, and the assembly of crude and rude men were trying to strip her naked, and then Krishna was becoming her cloth. And so he imitated Draupadi and said, by nature, a woman is ashamed to be seen without clothes. So that was his instruction on me following the brahmachari.
So Prabhupada was sitting in his upstairs room, and sometimes in the afternoons, devotees would come. Maybe this was in the morning, I don't remember exactly. But he he was so relaxed again, and he was so peaceful inside and happy. And he said to the 4 or 5 devotees who were sitting there that the secret of Krishna consciousness is to arrange your life in such a way that you cannot forget Krishna for a moment. And then, and when you read Prabhupada's books, that's really the secret of Krishna consciousness. And Mahaprabhu said, Kirtaniya Siddhahari. And Prabhupada himself was always engaged, and it's just so hard to do if you're not a pure soul. This is my realization and reflection on it. You can make an intellectual adjustment and say, from now on, I'm only going to think about Krishna or like that. But when you're a conditioned soul, you just can't do it. You can't do it by intelligence. You have to do it by, if you have love for Krishna, it's natural. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochena. But, so he said it like this, but Prabhupada said it in a very practical way. He said, arrange your life in such a way. In other words, let your life be involved in Krishna's service. Everything should be somehow or another connected to Krishna, not have the duality of this is for Krishna and this is not for Krishna in your life. So it calls for depth of consciousness again. So after saying that, the secret of Krishna consciousness is to arrange your life in such a way that you cannot forget Krishna for a moment. Then he turned to Brahmananda Prabhu and he said, isn't that right, Brahmananda? And Brahmananda said, laughed and said, yes, it's not that hard, because he followed whatever the mood that Prabhupada had. And in fact, Brahmananda, many years later, told me that he said, when Prabhupada wanted someone to say yes, he called me. And when he wanted someone to think independently, he called Tamal Krishna Maharaj.
During the initiation ceremony, Prabhupada's talk was that in Los Angeles, at that time, people were getting inoculated from the Hong Kong flu. So Srila Prabhupada said, in the same way, we should inoculate ourselves against the infection of Maya by this chanting of Hare Krishna.
I went to Mayapur in 1976, and I went with the drama troupe, the Vaikuntha Players. But unfortunately, the day I got there, I fell ill, and I was extremely sick with dysentery, and I had a high fever, and I was delirious. And Palika, who was cooking for Srila Prabhupada, also took care of me. She was giving me medicine, and she told me that Srila Prabhupada every day was asking her if I was all right and if I was getting better. And she moved me into the same floor as Pishima, Srila Prabhupada's sister. And her and I shared the bathroom. And I was really, it meant a lot to me. I felt like Srila Prabhupada was personally taking care of me, even though I was just some little kid brahmacharini.
So then the next experience I had, it's still a devotee with Gainesville, we went to, in 1975, the Philadelphia Rath Yatra. And because we were book distributors, our duty during the Rath Yatra was to distribute books. And so the carts, Prabhupada did not start with the beginning of the parade. And the carts were coming down this large, wide street. And I was maybe 3/4 of a block in front of the cart. I think I was probably the furthest devotee out in front of the cart. And all of a sudden there was a commotion at the side street, and it was Srila Prabhupada's car had arrived, and Prabhupada got out. And Brahmananda was on one side and Kirtananda was on the other, and they started walking down back to the cart. And I was right there distributing a Krishna book. And of course, I was thinking, oh, Srila Prabhupada, please notice me. I'm distributing your book. And I told the man I was distributing the book to, I said, oh, here's the author right now. And it was a very wide street. They were, for sure, way out of earshot. And just as I said that, Srila Prabhupada turned to his left and went like this, like to both of us. And it was like, oh, Prabhupada recognized me. I was, of course, wearing saffron and shaved up. And the person, the man I was distributing the book to, his mind was totally blown, and my mind was totally blown. And I remember he gave a nice donation and took the book, and I was just feeling so elated because, you know, to be recognized by the spiritual master is a very wonderful feeling. It's like the, you know, epitome of the best thing that can happen to you in your life, especially if you're doing something that's pleasing to him. And we all knew that his mission was to distribute these books, and to distribute them pleased him. And we could experience that also because you got such a wonderful taste from distributing Prabhupada's books.
And the thing that stands out the most in my mind of the classes that I heard was, for some reason, this vision of Srila Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasasan and referring to a painting which was just in front of him on a wall. And it was a painting of Srimati Radharani offering tulsi leaves to the lotus feet of Krishna. And in the background you see the figures of the gopis sort of looking through the trees, looking on. And so Prabhupada was talking about that painting and how Srimati Radharani is serving Krishna, and the gopis are assisting Srimati Radharani in her service to Krishna, and other gopis are assisting those gopis. And Prabhupada raised his finger and he said, so this is our philosophy, that we are the servants of the servants of the servants, and the further down the line you go, the sweeter that service becomes. So I remember so vividly how Srila Prabhupada raised his finger, moved his finger down and said, the further down the line you go, the sweeter that service becomes.
So this is 1971. High Vilas Prabhu, temple president, he got Brahmin initiation from Prabhupada in London. And I said, I should go to London too and get Brahmin initiation from Prabhupada. And he said, I guess you should, because we heard Prabhupada was going to be leaving soon to go somewhere else. And I got to London, and it was on the morning of Radhastami, Radharani's appearance day. And when I went into the temple, I was greeted by Shyamasundar. He said, are you getting Brahmin? I said, yeah. He says, and he ushered me into the temple room directly, and Prabhupada was there, and all the devotees were sitting around and with their, you know, the plates with the bananas and the neck piece and everything. And the Brahmin, well, it wasn't a Brahmin thread, but it was a banana and some grains. So I sat down, Prabhupada was speaking, and he had devotees receiving first initiation come up and go over the regulative principles, and then he would say, and how many rounds a day do you chant? And the devotees would say, 16. And then Prabhupada would say, minimum. So that was very instructive, you know, that we think that after 16 rounds you got to put your beads down and go do your service, but Prabhupada said, if you chant Hare Krishna 24/7, I'll be very happy. So that was just the minimum. And then he said, he said, you can chant early in the morning and late at night, but don't count the rounds you chant in the afternoon. He said, I finish my rounds late at night. So that was an interesting thing. I heard him say that probably the mode of passion is prominent during the afternoon. There's a lot of activity, a lot of distraction, but he wanted us to be very, very focused and hear the chanting, our own chanting and chanting of others. So we would get the greatest benefit that way.
We had been doing programs all around South India. Actually, our job as part of the program crew was to eat 3 times a day. And the people would come out with these incredible feasts. In South India, this was, you couldn't possibly understand how good the food was. So at one of these luncheons, a group of local brahmanas, and I even think they were part of a samaj of some kind or an organization of some kind. It seems that they were invited by the person who invited us to lunch, and it seems that this was to some extent a setup, not something that was ordinarily to be expected. It was something that there seemed to have been some organization to this. So when we finished eating, Prabhupada went into the back room. There was a table there, some chairs and things, and there was a porch, because it was in a house where they had a porch around. So I was on the porch, and then all of a sudden from inside the house, about 4 or 5 of these brahmanas came in. And so I stood there at the door because, I felt bad, something's wrong. And I was pretty strong in those days. So I didn't think I would have any problem with these people. So they started talking to Prabhupada in a they were not polite. They were upset that he was ruining Hinduism. He was ruining the Brahminical name. He was ruining it for Brahmanas by making Malechas and Yavanas Brahmanas. He was destroying the culture. He was ruining everything. And they were very angry. They were very upset. So I had enough. I just threw open the door. Prabhupada held up his hand and went, and I just, literally, I was ready to tear into them. And I just stood there. And they went on, and they went on, and on about how bad he was, and how much he ruined everything, and how much, and he just sat there. Didn't say a word. And they went on and on and on. And then he just looked down in a very humble way. You could sense that. It was a very humble way. He was just looking down. And they were becoming less and less boisterous. They were becoming less and less forceful. And you could see their energy was just dissipating until finally they had nothing left to say. And they just got up and walked out. And that could have gone way south, way fast. But Prabhupada just sat there and with just intense humility displayed to them with such power that they're supposed to be the Brahmanas and he's supposed to be the one ruining everything. And they're speaking with such anger and hatred and he's just sitting there. And when they realized the irony of that, they realized they defeated themselves and they walked out the door. And for me, that was just spectacular. And I told him so. I said, I was ready to, I confessed, I said, I was ready to come in and start pounding heads. And he said, I know. And I said, that was very good, what you did. That was very good.
Prema Dana Karuna